The wind over the cliffs of Aerthlyn carried stories, fragments of forgotten songs, words spoken in grief, prayers never answered. It whispered through the heather like a voice trying to remember itself. I used to walk that edge every evening, cloak drawn tight, boots scuffed with salt and soil, listening for the one voice that never came back. The villagers thought I was a widow. Though I never wore black, they said I spoke to ghosts. Though I answered no one, they were right. In their way, I had buried something. Not a man, but a promise. A bond sealed with fire and fate. And like all things born of magic, it ended in blood. I was the high scribe of Cindrel tower, once trained in spell or fluent, in the old tongue marked by the ember birthmark on my wrist, proof that the fire chose me. I'd spent most of my youth translating relic spells and binding stories into the vault where no mortal memory could decay them. And then there was Cale. Not a knight, not a prince, not even a man by human reckoning. He arrived with the equinox rains, half drowned, star-marked, carried by the tide to the library steps, skin like frost-dusted stone, eyes rimmed in silver. I remember thinking he looked like winter sculpted him. He told us he came from Aether, one of the realms behind the veil. He'd crossed over during the collapse of the fifth seal, drawn by something or someone. I didn't know what that meant then. He never lied, but he never told the whole truth either. He slept on the roof, read books backward, and spoke the ancient language with a cadence that made it sound like poetry instead of power. I found myself circling him like gravity, pulled and repelled in equal measure. One night, beneath the vaults of the crystal hall, I asked what he feared. He said, becoming real, becoming remembered. That's how it started. Not a romance, not at first a tether, something deeper than want, more dangerous than love. When the second moon began to bleed, a bad omen, I was summoned to the king's court. They feared a breach. Strange creatures were appearing in the forests, creatures made of mist and memory, walking where they shouldn't. I suspected the veil was thinning. Cale confirmed it. They're hunting me, he said. The forgotten ones, they want to pull me back before I become permanent. I should have turned it in and should have handed him to the crown's mages and sealed the veil shut. But I didn't. I couldn't. Instead, I bound his name to mine. It was an old rite, forbidden, dangerous. You don't tether your soul to someone not born of this world unless you're willing to lose everything. But Cale smiled when I did a real smile, as if for the first time he belonged somewhere. And for a while, he did. We carved time into hours, hours into nights. I memorized the sound of his voice, the quiet way he said my name. We spoke of what we'd do if the realms ever aligned. Build a house near the southern cliffs, fill it with music and warmth, let the wind come and go without stealing anyone we loved. But magic doesn't forget what it's owed. The veil tore during the final equinox, a wound across the sky, howling. The forgotten ones came through. Cale tried to run to lure them away. I followed. There in the forest of hollow birch, I saw what he had hidden. He wasn't just fleeing them, he was one of them. Once. Before he broke free, before he chose humanity. He'd stolen his form, shed his true shape, and taken memories not his own. That was the price of passing through the veil. I didn't lie, he said, trembling. As the forest glowed with ancient fire, I only forgot who I was before you. I couldn't breathe. The man I loved was the thing we feared, and still, I stood between him and the ones who came for him. They offered a trade, a soul for a soul. They'd leave the veil sealed if Cale returned willingly. He looked at me then and I saw it, all of it. The centuries of hunger, of loneliness, of violence undone by love. I won't let you sacrifice yourself, I said. stepped forward anyway. And as he vanished into mist and ash, he left me a parting gift, a spark, his magic. It lit beneath my skin like starlight, tethering not to memory but to presence. Now I am the Veil Keeper. I walk the cliff's edge and speak to the wind, not as a widow, not as a broken lover, but as a bridge between realms, between stories. And sometimes, when the mist is thick and the tide pulls too hard, I hear a voice, soft, familiar, becoming remembered was worth it. And I remember. I always remembered.